When you're drafting, you sure don't have a lot of time.
I wish it wasn't all the same deck.
Benefit for the community.
He would be surprised if there were more than 250 play sets in circulation.
You actually have to figure out what everyone else is going to be anticipating.
The conflict's escalating. It's the siege happening, the war is starting. And this set has half Myriad, half Phyrexian.
Grasp of Darkness is 2 black mana for an instant to give target creature -4/-4 until end of turn.
I'm just excited just to open the packs and just try to build a deck.
Vintage is the format where you're allowed to play all of the really old cards, the cards that by current testing methods would never have actually gotten printed, but these are the ones from 1993 that are incredible. So it's a format where pretty much anything can happen.
I try to play in the Vintage Championships every year. I own Power, I got into it in college. I met up with a group of guys, Team Mean Deck, and got into playing Vintage competitively. And it's just a fantastic format. It's kind of like Magic at its extremes, you know?
The games that make it worthwhile are the really, really intricate, interesting games where every decision matters.
Vintage tournaments are not very common, and you don't get this kind of numbers. Like, this is huge for a Vintage tournament.
And it's just the incredible complexity, the intensity, the high stakes plays, high stakes decision making. It's a thrill. It's a thrill, and it's so intellectually satisfying.
The Vintage Champs, you can't use proxies, and everybody's actually using the real stuff, so it's just a cool sight to see.
If you're coming to the Vintage Championships without Power, you can come and play, and you'll have a good time. But your chances of top 8ing or winning are slim to none. Like, you really do. And this is a non-proxy event. You know, a lot of Vintage is proxy, but this is like really the only one big one in the States that doesn't allow proxies. So you really got to have it to come and play in this particular event.
I'm playing a Gush deck. What I'm playing is a unique deck because it has Dark Confidant and Gush. So typically people play Dark Confidant Jace decks or Gush Jace decks. Well, I'm playing both. I'm playing Dark Confidant and Gush, and I'm probably one of like 2 people in the room are playing it because my teammate, Paul Mastriano, is also playing my deck. And it's unbelievable.
I'm playing a deck called Cat Stacks. It's a workshop deck that runs Lodestone Golem and Slash Panther, and then a whole bunch of resistor effects like Sphere of Resistance and Tangle Wire and Chalice of the Void and all those things to gum up your opponent's plan while swinging in with big artifact guys.
I'm playing a mono black deck myself, which is kind of depressing because it doesn't allow me to use all of my old cards, but I always like playing mono black, and I still get to use the Black Lotus, which is the best card. I still play one of the Moxen, but the cool thing about my deck is it can make a 20/20 flying creature that can kill in one hit. So that's always fun.
People who play Vintage become addicted once they understand it. People just keep coming back for more because once it gets on your brain, once you know what the plays are and you understand the field and understand the metagame, then you understand it's not luck. And once you understand it's not luck, then you understand it's every decision you make, from what deck you choose to play, which archetype you choose to play, how you decide to tune your deck, what you decide to put in your sideboard card, your 59th slot, your 60th slot, and every decision you make in the game matters. And when you have that kind of power over the game, it's incredibly addictive.
Anyone who played Magic early on has fond memories of some of the older cards. It's just kind of the game has a different feel to it than it kind of does now, if that makes any sense. I think everybody goes back to the time where they remember before the internet was out there and everybody knew exactly what was in every set before it happened. And there were cards out there that you had never heard of before, and you remember like the first time you saw a certain card, and it was just so cool. And it's kind of a time like you can't go back to, but a Vintage tournament, at least you can play with all those cards again.
Vintage is kind of funny. It's an expensive format when you first pick it up because you have to make that huge buy-in. But then every year, if you're only playing Vintage, you only need to get a couple cards. The few cards that make an impact on Vintage that come out of the sets that year don't cost you much at all. You don't have to go and pay for your Titans and get all the expensive Chase standard rares. Because usually the cards that make an impact on Vintage aren't even very good in standard. Things like this year we had Phyrexian Revoker. Slash Panther I'm playing today, and it's a common, you throw them away after you draft or whatever, but it made an impact on Vintage. It's kind of funny like that. Once you have the power, it doesn't cost much.
Proxy up a deck. Just go take a stack of cards, take a Sharpie, and proxy up 2 decks and just play. Vintage is not about the cards. People think it is. This is the only tournament where you need to own power. pretty much everywhere else in the United States, you don't need to own power. And people who really care about Vintage and enjoy the format have no problem with someone proxying up really an entire deck, because they want other people to enjoy the format as well. This is not a game of sort of wealth, it's a game of skill.